Okay, so now I'm now back in Charleston, South Carolina for, I believe it's my fifth move back to Charleston, South Carolina. Two of my kids were born here, so it feels like home in Charleston. Um, I now am separated from my husband, and I need to have a job. So this is kind of where it all began because I've been a stay-at-home mom for 12 years. Okay, I had three kids. I was a stay-at-home mom for 12 years. I do have my master's in education and counseling. So luckily, I listened to my mom, and she said, "You need to have your education just in case, this getting married thing at 21 doesn't work out for you." When I told her I was going to get married at 21 right out of college, she was like, "Do you think that's a good idea? Why don't you just go ahead and move in together and then see what happens from there?" But no, we were 21, we knew everything, we were, the smartest cookies in the world, and so we went and got married at 21. So after almost 16 years of marriage on paper, we did end up getting a divorce, and I did luckily have my education in counseling so that way I could apply for jobs as a school counselor. So that worked out well, that when I applied for jobs, being in the schools, because my kids were in school and I don't have any family in Charleston and I don't really have any friends. So it was good to have a job where I was going to have the same schedule as my kids for the most part. Yes, there's teacher days that they work, that the kids don't go to school, but they weren't that many. So I put my youngest son, in daycare because he was only 4 at the time. So he went into pre-K 4-year-old program. So he was there all day, and then my oldest was 4th grade, and then in 2nd grade, I believe it was. So yeah, they went to school, and then when they were off school, I just had to get the after school care or whatever. So it was very stressful to be working and have your kids not be available to your kids like you usually are. I usually took them to school on their first day and walked them into class and sat them down and met their teachers, and I could go in for lunch during the day, or I could stay home if they were sick. It was so stressful. If they were sick one day, what was I going to do? I don't like calling in sick. I don't want to, miss days of work, because then everything else, that depends on me. So that was very difficult to grasp in my head, but, I had to, have a job. So I did. I did meet, he's now my current husband. I met him in the beginning of, well, I knew him before I moved back to South Carolina, but then we reconnected when I got back to South Carolina, and then that's when we started dating. So um, I ended up selling the house in that I had owned with my ex-husband, and we moved into 2 townhouses that were in the same neighborhood. So he had his townhouse and I had my townhouse, and I was working full time at the schools, and the kids were going to their school. But it was just very stressful to get up at 5 o'clock every morning, make sure they were up and ready by 6. I don't think their bus came till like 7:15 or 7:30. So at this time now they're like 5th and 3rd grade and kindergarten. And I had to get my 5-year-old a cell phone, and she was very responsible, 5th grader, not my 5-year-old, my 5th grader, a cell phone. And I'd get them all dressed and ready in the morning before I left for work, get their lunches packed, get their book bags done, and set another alarm for when they were supposed to walk out to the bus stop, which was right in front of the house. So they had to walk themselves out there, lock the door, and get out there. So what they did was they would call me when they were going out to the bus stop, and then they would call me when the bus came so that I would know. And at the time, my husband now, but the guy I was dating then, David, he lived down at the townhouse. So he was at his house, but he was always asleep at, 6:30 in the morning. He worked from home, so he didn't have to get up. But he was there as a backup, so I wasn't like really leaving my kids like with no, I mean, it took me 20 minutes to get home. And there were a few times that I had to drive home from school because the bus didn't come and they didn't know what to do. So they had to go let themselves back in the house, and I had to get home from work and go get them to where they need to go and then go back to work. So just all of that was very stressful. I carried along, and I still carry around, a little bit of anger. At that time, it was way more anger than it is now. But I was just very angry that I had to do what I was doing. I had to leave my kids. I decided I wanted to have 3 kids so I could be a stay-at-home mom. I didn't decide to have 3 kids so I could go work full time outside in the school taking care of somebody else's kids. That's not what I decided. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and take care of my own kids. So I was very angry that now half of me put my own self in that position because of, get emotionally stuck in my head somewhere else with someone else. And the other part was that I did not create that whole entire situation all on my own. My ex-husband also was part of that story, and he was just very angry with me and wasn't taking any responsibility for anything or any actions that he had. So I was dealing with his anger surrounded by what my actions were, but yet I was angry at him as well. So it was not good for communication between co-parents. And I feel really, really guilty about that, as far as my kids go, especially my oldest, because she was at an age where she can remember, different arguments and fights. And, if I look back on some things that I saved in her different journals and paperwork from school, she will write a little bit about it here and there. And so I do still feel very guilty about that. And I know one day will come and I will want to explain everything to them when they're old enough to understand. But right now they're not. So we'll leave that there for now. But yeah, I was just very angry getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning every single morning and having to go to work and leave my kids. So then fast forward for about a year after that, I was working in the schools, did that, exhausted, pretty much sleeping, maybe 5 hours a night or so, because now I'm not only divorced, single parent, working full time, now I'm also dating this new person. And so the only time to hang out is at night. So he works from home and sleeps in every day, but he stays up late. So now I'm staying up late and I have to go to work and I'm just exhausted. I'm tired. And, when you're exhausted and tired, you do not have a lot of patience. And you just, So, about 2 years into that, then we got engaged and moved into together, and I continued to go to work in the school. He continued to work from home, and so but now I'm like watching him work from home, and I'm getting very jealous and I'm upset because I'm going into the school, I'm coming home, I'm trying to maintain the house, keep track of my kids, get everything organized. And yes, he has 2 kids. They come see us every other weekend to stay with us, and then one night during the week. But yet, he's not having to take care of kids all day, manage the homework and do different things. I mean, sure, he's there to kind of be a coach for my parents. I mean, not my parents, my kids, to kind of let them know where to go and, what to do here and there. But, it's not his responsibility to take care of them. So I'm working in the school, talking to kids all day. I'm in a primary school, talking to kids all day. Some were talking about divorce, some were talking about their, their step parent, some were talking about, different little kid things. And I'm talking to these other kids about these big stories that are going on in their life, but yet I'm not there to be there for my own kids. So that made me very, very sad. And I just started thinking, like, how am I going to get out of this? I'm barely making any money as a school counselor as it is, but it is a steady job. I'm off when my kids are off. I'm off during the summer. So this is a good setup for me, but yet I can barely afford what I need to be affording, and I'm exhausted. And on top of all that, I am scared to death that I'm going to turn into one of these other people that are working in the school. They are exhausted too. They've been doing it way longer than I have. I've only been doing it for 2 years. They have given, a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them have given up on themselves and taking care of themselves. And, the flip side of that, I had, not that I looked healthy, but I had lost almost 30 pounds. I was down to, like I said, like now 105, being 5'1". And maybe some people didn't think I looked healthy, but I kind of liked the thin look. I was like, oh, I didn't even know this was possible. And so that kind of clicked in my brain to be like, okay, all of this stress and this running while I was doing it to escape my separation, my divorce, and my craziness of working full time, I kind of liked the side effect consequence. It was a negative consequence, I guess, but I kind of liked it. I didn't mean for it or intend for it to happen at all, but it just so happened. So it kind of gave me the thinking, like, that's kind of interesting that happened that way. So I was scared to death to gain back that weight, and I would do anything and everything in my power to make my workouts and my eating healthy a habit. So I did join a gym and I had a personal trainer, and I went after school before my kids got home because they were on an hour different time schedule than me. So I would go that extra hour that I got off earlier to the gym, and that way I would be home when they got home.